At the end of the day, it's not just about who can get the most engagement, who has the biggest following. It's about who understands how to convert those followers into buyers.
Welcome to the Passion in Progress Show, where creators and entrepreneurs deliver actionable advice to help you make a living out of your passion. What is up, Merce Nation? My name's Javier Mercedes, and this is the 75th episode with Kimberly Ann Jimenez. After this interview, I can guarantee you that this is one of the most value-packed episodes you are ever going to hear if you are a content creator. Kimberly is the founder of The Business Lounge, which is a membership website that teaches entrepreneurs how to grow, launch, and scale their businesses through content marketing. And speaking of content creation, if you are an editor and use Premiere Pro, one of the products that I sell on my website is the Smooth Object Animation Preset Pack. That's a lot to say, but it's very easy to use. As an editor, I use this every single day, and I kid you not, I literally use these presets every single day. What these presets do is they allow you to animate an object, video, title, picture, or any asset at all in and out of frame with the click of a button. All you do is click and drag the preset on, and it swipes it in or swipes it out in a smooth, professional way. It's available in the description below. All right, let's go ahead and kick off the 75th episode of the Passion in Progress Show with Kimberly Ann Jimenez. I am pumped for today because we are here with the Business Lounge founder, Kimberly Ann Jimenez. How's it going?
It's going awesome. Thank you for pronouncing my last name correctly, by the way. I so appreciate that. It's so sweet of you.
I'm going to be straightforward. I'm intimidated by both you and your husband by what you have been able to accomplish in the content creation space. And in order to pack all of that into a conversation for this podcast would be insane. But just to talk about what you do with the Business Lounge, content creation in general, I think the value that you can provide to the listeners is insurmountable. There's just like so much that we could talk about. Let's just begin with vanity metrics for your social media, and that doesn't equate to dollars in the bank. So can you explain your philosophy on that? And I'm really just like diving right into this. Do you want to give a little bit of background of who you are, or where do you want to start?
I love it though. I love it. Just jumping right in.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, thank you so much. Like that compliment means the world, and you should not be intimidated at all. You have an amazing platform. You're doing amazing things, and I just really appreciate you having me on the show. So that being said, thank you for having me. And just a little bit of a background on kind of started in the social media marketing space, helping Chris, kind of build his first startup, and then transitioned into education after a very long set of events, right? But now with the Business Lounge, we basically run a membership site, right? So we teach entrepreneurs how to grow, launch, and scale their businesses through content marketing, through online content marketing, and a lot of business strategies that are involved in that, right? Because it's not just, hey, let's get you on Instagram, or let's, figure out video, or let's build an email list. It's about building a sustainable, profitable business and not focusing on the vanity metrics that are so popular and so many people are just so addicted to these days, right? It's just like, hey, how many likes can I get on this Instagram post? Or, how many people can I get to watch my videos, which are all really good and important things. But unfortunately, those things do not equal money in the bank, right? So we're all about being profitable over being popular. And I think that's something that is so important and a message that I am very, very passionate about. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. I think, it all begins with understanding, and I think that for me specifically, I had the advantage of being a social media manager for so many years and then going into consulting and seeing the back end of my clients' businesses, right? From so many different industries, from like realtors to like roofing companies to like real estate and like bigger firms that had 500, 600, 1,000 employees, seeing the numbers, no matter what, whether you have a very small marketing budget or you're running, couple $1 million a year in Facebook ads. At the end of the day, it's not just about who can get the most engagement, who has the biggest following. It's about who understands how to convert those followers into buyers, right? It's about understanding the process of adding value to people, about building a relationship, about finding people who are your ideal clients and ideal customers, attracting those people, right? Starting with the end in mind instead of just trying to speak to everybody, trying to get, the biggest amount of followings, growing your Instagram, your YouTube, whatever it may be. It's not about that. It's not about the numbers. It's about the relationship. It's about the quality. And so if you can focus on quality over quantity from the start, you won't need a massive audience to have a 7-figure business. You really won't. It's really about looking at how can we do more with what we have, instead of just trying to go, all extremely big all of a sudden, and then realizing, which is what most people do, and I can't tell you, oh my gosh, how many bloggers, Instagrammers, like celebrities I've coached and mentored who have incredible audiences, like huge numbers, and they're completely broke because they don't know, either they don't know how to turn, followers into buyers, or they've attracted the wrong audience. So it's people who just want, the freebie, who are not really thinking about doing business with that specific brand, or just don't care enough about the offers. So I think that that's something that's really important, and I'm excited to unpack it further.
One thing I'd like to point out is I think in one of your videos, you did talk about you hit like 700 subscribers and then you already had 6 figures for your company. So, I'll say it just to like give you compliments.
700 though, but yeah.
Not 700, 7,000. Yeah. But I think that's to give context to the listeners of just a good, attribution to your argument of what you're talking about. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. In terms of how we got there, or?
I would say, where should people be focusing?
Yeah. So I honestly, it depends on your goal, right? So at the end of the day, we all need to be profitable if we're running businesses. So if you're doing this as a hobby, that's a whole different story, right? And I'm all for you growing your Instagram, growing your YouTube, your Facebook, whatever it is that you want to grow. If it's a passion project and you're doing it on the side, go you. That's where you need to focus. Just build your audience, build your people. But if you're thinking about it from a long-term perspective, or if you already have an established brand and you want to take it, to the next level and scale it up, I think people need to really focus on building relationships with their people, just getting to know their ideal customer, getting to know their followers. I can't tell you how important that is, like having those conversations. And I know that Gary Vee has been quoted 1,000,000 times talking about the importance of just having that interaction, that connection with your tribe. Little things like, showing up on live streams if you can, like being able to answer DMs, encouraging people to have real conversations with you is something that most creators don't do. And if they are doing it, they're not doing it to the full extent that they could be. And honestly, for me, it's a little bit of a selfish strategy. And I really, truly mean that. I spend a lot of time answering questions and just being engaged with our audience as much as I possibly can. And then furthermore, we have a business where that's just, kind of embedded into what we do inside the membership. So I'm constantly answering questions. I'm in that community, very engaged, because my people tell me what they want and what they need. And I need that information if I'm going to put out offers that are going to sell. And so it's one of those kind of win-win situations where if you really fall in love with your audience, and you're listening and you're having that conversation with them, you're connected with them, it will reap benefits like crazy for your brand, because it'll give you all the information you need to, number one, create content that they actually care about, content that is going to allow you to get discovered and bring more people into your world like them. It's also going to allow you to figure out where your market is, right? Are they ready for this specific offer? What you should be pricing it at? What has to be the messaging and that specific, type of marketing they were going to build to sell whatever it is you're selling, whether it's services, physical products, online course. All those things are so important. It's like business 101, but we don't really think about it that way because we're in the online space and we don't see people on a day-to-day basis, right? If you had, like, let's say your Instagram followers in one room all together, like if they were, let's say there are 300 people. All the time I hear this from members, like, hey, I only have 300 followers. Like, I'm so disappointed. Like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, there's 300 people in a room who've literally raised their hands and said, hey, I want to hear what you have to say. So if you imagine it that way, having those conversations with people in real life is a totally different dynamic than online. And so when you're running an online business, you have to go the extra mile to connect with your followers. Otherwise, you're just another brand. You're just another Instagram account. You're just another YouTube channel. They don't really perceive you as human as much, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that it's really important to have those conversations because it'll tell you exactly what you need to be creating. And most brands who are already scaling up, and I've worked with a lot of companies who are, making a ridiculous amount of money online, they don't have the luxury of being super in tune with their customer base. Usually they don't do it on purpose. So when you're a smaller company and you can make changes quickly, you have that edge because you know your people, you're connecting with them, you know exactly what they want. Whereas larger companies, they have to then, after they're, kind of scaled up, go back and start from zero, trying to understand their audience again so that they can put out offers that resonate with them. So it's one of those things that I don't think that we really understand the power of just being present and connecting with your audience and having real conversations and setting yourself up for success in that way. And a really practical way of because I know that sounds very theoretical, but simple things like, encouraging your audience to comment back on every single post that you put out, some kind of call to action, whether they're commenting or they're replying to an email or, they're sharing their feedback on a poll. You have to constantly ask, what they're feeling, what their challenges are, because that'll help guide your direction in general. And it's such a powerful thing that I don't see enough creators doing.
Just unpacking all of that. In my brain, it's awesome. What I was going to say, so let's say somebody listening to this already has a platform that they've focused on, either Instagram, YouTube, blogging, whatever that may be.
Sure.
On the back end, and I know I asked you about this before, we started with email and email lists. I know that's one of the parts where I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I know I was supposed to do something with this, so I have it, and it's growing ever so slowly. But when it comes to interacting with your audience, I know when going to networking events and other things like that, other people are always saying that this is your most powerful thing to be utilizing.
Yeah.
What kind of argument would you say to somebody in my case is hey man, you do something with your email list, how if you already have some sort of social media that you're using, how else could you use your email list?
Okay, I love that question. And I think it goes back to the original question that you asked, about, how I got to 6 figures with only about 7,000 subscribers. And it really is, again, relationships, right? So the way that you leverage an email list has so many, we could talk about this all day, but I would say for you specifically, Javier, from a practical standpoint, I would be sending your email subscribers content at least once a week, right? So whenever you put out a new video, just a quick, hey, this is what we're talking about this week. Really excited for you to watch it. Leave a comment about what you thought with, X question. And that is a good way of training your list to look out for emails on your episodes. You can also...
It's like a light bulb just goes on. It's what you're saying is so simple, and I probably have heard it before. And I know I'm cutting you off, but it's just good. Boom. Okay, yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah.
So every week, right? Every single week you're creating, these videos are incredible. You're repurposing them on social media. They're so great. But I think we forget often that, just people are busy. And they might be following you on Instagram. They might be subscribed to your channel, but they're not necessarily going to stop everything they're doing, right? And watch the video. So really email comes in place to build that relationship. And then when it's time to actually transition your email subscribers to buyers with the launch of a course or whatever else you have to offer, whether it's services, coaching, an event, that's literally your golden ticket. Your email list is the most profitable asset that you have as an online business owner. And you'll see this time and time again. Conversion rates on email lists are not comparable to social media. It's incredible. So I would highly, highly recommend building that now so that when you do have something to sell, or I know you have amazing offers, but I'm just saying, if you're starting and maybe you don't have something to sell right now, you can already have built up all this goodwill with your email list, right? Like you're sending them content every single week. They have to be the VIPs because anyone can subscribe to your YouTube channel. But if they're giving you access to their personal inbox, that's a big deal, right? So you want to respect it, build a lot of goodwill. And when it's time to, pitch your specific offer, that's where most of your clients are going to come from. They're not necessarily going to come all from social media. So highly recommend building that email list, giving those people a lot of love. You can even do some cool stuff with like giving them exclusive access to bonus content. Not something that you have to like put a ton of time and effort into, but maybe like once a month, do something cool for them, because those are the people who are going to support you when you have something awesome to, well, not that you don't, I'm just in general, right? When you have something awesome to sell.
Well, by the way, I'll probably put that in the show notes.
Yes.
If you would like to sign up for my newsletter. There was one previous guest that I just had a couple episodes ago that was all he does is email marketing for bigger brands. And we talked about certain things like, all right, here's 3 value emails where we're not even trying to send them anywhere. We're just telling them things about a certain subject and building rapport. And then finally, some sort of like, hey, here's a click through certain type of whatever that may be. How does that manifest itself in what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I totally agree with that strategy. I think that especially when people are joining your list for the first time, and we kind of have 2 different ways we go about it. When we're sending people through a specific funnel, sometimes we're a lot more aggressive about, hey, this is an offer that we think is incredible value. Here's a link. We're not pitching to them directly, but there's like a PS at the bottom. Hey, if you want more information about this, click here. And it works really, really well. So it really depends on the niche and the industry that you're in. But when you're getting started, value. For us, we kind of have 2 different routes that we take. Most of our subscribers who join our email list from our website, so organically, right? We're not targeting them through an ad. They go through a set of videos, and we get them to choose kind of what type of content they want to check out next. So we give them 3 options. Hey, are you interested in email marketing? Are you interested in content marketing? Or are you interested in branding? And so
this is genius, by the way.
Yeah, that just gives them, kind of puts them on a different email sequence. And then we send them over the course of 2 weeks, some value emails with links to our blogs or video, just our best resources on that specific topic, just to indoctrinate them. It's literally called an indoctrination sequence, and just give them that, kind of feel for who we are and what we have to offer. And we get replies from those emails like crazy, which is really cool. People just telling us like, hey, this resonated with us a lot. Thanks so much. Or I have a question about this. Could you answer it in the next, episode? So that's kind of how we run the organic side of the business. With Facebook ads, we get to be a little bit more aggressive in that sense, because we're kind of sending people directly to an offer. And if they choose not to use that, then we'll send them to a webinar or a free class. And they also get to choose like, hey, would you want to learn about blogging? Do you want to learn about social media? Or do you want to learn about branding? And so that's kind of the process. But I highly recommend, and keep in mind, I've been perfecting this process for 7 years. So I kind of know what will work and what doesn't work. But in the beginning, when I was first getting started, it was more of like, okay, I have one email sequence, right, that welcomes people in. And then once that sequence is over, where I'm giving them a lot of value, I put them back in my newsletter bucket. So I'm giving them, consistent content every single week that's value add. And then when I have a launch or when I'm doing a promotion, I will send them through that. So it just depends on how advanced you want to take it, right? And where you're at right now. There's some really cool things that you can do with email marketing and automation. Like you can go as far as to really segment people based on what pages they visited on your website, and trigger, automations that way. Or, what have they bought this specific product? Let's pitch them on this product. And then let's put them on another sequence that like gives them a lot of value for a couple months. And then let's move them into, kind of like our highest end offer. So there's a lot that you can do. I recommend starting simple and keeping it really tight and right. And then adding on cool features as you move forward. But keeping in mind that those are your ideal clients. Those are the people who are going to buy, who are going to open up their wallets and say yes. So you got to treat them like the VIPs they get all the goods before everyone else. And I think that's really important, of just making that distinction between people who are social media followers and then people who are your email list subscribers. I always want to make sure that we're giving those people first dibs on everything, especially when we're running any kind of promotion, or we're building up a wait list for our next course. Those are all really important strategies that are embedded into our entire process of marketing our brand. So just as an example, whenever we're about to release a new program, right? And before we do that, a few months before, while we're building it, we're already sending our email list hey, do you want to be on the early bird list for this launch? And that helps us gauge the interest and also gives us a good idea of how profitable that launch is going to be. So it's really cool.
Yeah, just the idea of, because I've joined a couple email lists now of other podcasters that I listen to, and after I joined, and that they sent me an email, and then like a week later, here was another email, and I was like, oh, this is an automated process. Oh my God, it's so much easier. And then my question was going to be like, all right, so now that it's an automated process, does your newsletter all like step on top of that? But what you just said is then it goes into that bucket.
Right.
All these things I've been thinking about, I was like, man, it'd be really cool if you could do it. And I'm like, no, you can do that, Javier. It's just a matter of like starting simple and then facilitating the tools from there. You mentioned a couple months out from whatever launch this may be, and it could be any product that you're coming out with. Can you explain the importance of a content calendar?
Oof.
And how that contributes to what you're launching and where you're steering the sales?
Totally. So I think that this... By the way, the questions you're asking are brilliant, because these are the questions most people don't ask. I love that you're on your game. So when it comes to content, right, we are all the time, I guess, indoctrinated to think that we have to just publish more stuff, right? Like that's the gateway. That's the drug. That's the way that you get to the top. It's more. Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing. I love content probably more than most people think. I really do. But at the end of the day, being clear on why you're creating that content to begin with is really important. So most people make the mistake of not merging their promotional calendar with their content calendar, right? And so let's explain that first.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I would almost venture to say you should repeat that just so it ingrains into people's brains, but continue.
Yes, I'm going to repeat it. You need to be merging your promotional calendar with your content calendar, right? That is like Media 101. And if you go to any large media company that runs, their brand like a legitimate, institution, you'll see that all the time. It's like, hey, content has to be related to what we're selling right now. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to do this. So you're putting a lot of time and energy, and it costs a lot to produce content, and time and effort, and money a lot of times. So it's important that, number one, you're planning your content in advance, right? Content calendar is really important to figure out, okay, I'm going to be publishing, my long form content once a week on Wednesdays, and these are the topics. It can be literally that simple. And then taking that content and repurposing it on social media, then looking at, okay, what are we going to be promoting in the next couple of months, right? So making sure that the content that we're putting out aligns with whatever we're going to be promoting is a very smart strategy, because and I'm not tooting my own horn, I'm just saying in general, if you're implementing that, that's really smart, because you're really priming your audience for a topic that you're going to be releasing, whether it could be a service, it could be a product. E-commerce brands that are doing content marketing usually do this really well. So they know when their new product line is coming out, and then they start a couple weeks before talking about that specific topic and releasing content related to it, right? So for example, one of the brands that I talk about all the time in the Business Lounge is Soko Glam. So they're a Korean skincare, well, they're not Korean, but they really curate K-beauty products. And I think it's so brilliant, because on their blog, when they're coming up with a new release, like they just came out with like what they call is like their Soko award winners, which is the products that people love the most that year, they'll start subtly creating content around those specific products before, right, they announce the launch. And that just puts that product in front of people's kind of, just being conscious about it. And they start really reviewing it, talking about ingredients, all this good stuff. And then boom, they release their award season, give people an awesome discount. It's like the biggest event of the year for them. So any kind of brand can implement the exact same strategy. So let's say you have a promotion about a specific service, right? You can start talking to people about, the problems that they might be facing around the solution that you have to offer. So if you're a photographer, I would be talking about, how to set up your equipment and how it can be a little bit challenging, how to solve that problem, how to hire a photographer, what to pay, what not to pay, what to ask, what not to ask, how to interview a photographer. Lots of different questions that can lead someone to say, oh, like I actually need this, or I have this problem. It's cool that there's a solution to it. So implementing that process into every single one of your promotions, a must do when you are creating content. Otherwise, it's just like they're two separate things, and then you confuse your audience. It's like you're talking about, I don't know, let's say for you, you're talking about email marketing, and then you're talking about podcasting, and then you're interviewing someone else, and they're talking about e-com, and that's great. But then if you're about to release a videography course, it doesn't really relate, right? Like there's no connection. So making sure that you have 2 or 3 weeks carved ahead of time, talking about video and the importance of it, showing people, giving value, showcasing your know-how, super important.
Awesome. In sticking with this, can you relate it to creating goals and then staying connected to those goals? How do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really begins, Chris and I have a process where every single year we will go out on our goal planning retreat and we will map out our entire year. Like, what do we want to hit quarter 1, 2, 3, 4? And then we kind of stick to those goals by doing quarterly reviews and setting up, talking to our team about, hey, these are the goals that we have for this quarter. Usually it starts with, it really can be anything, but when we're talking about content specifically and conversions and how we're driving people to our site, or how we're going to be, talking about a specific product launch, it really starts with numbers, right? We're like, hey, this is the goal that we want to hit this quarter. What is it going to take? We'll look at historical data, like how did we do last year? What were the things that we did well, and what are the things that we did wrong? And then let's make sure that our content reflects that. So we'll go in and say, okay, we're going to be launching this specific product, or we're going to be pushing this existing product. Let's make sure that we, number one, try something different than we did last year, see how that goes, but then also learn from what we did. So whether it's we're going to be putting out, new content, we're going to release a new webinar, we're going to release a new live stream, we're going to be more active on our Facebook group. Those are things that'll lead us to that goal. And so whatever we do in terms of our content calendar has to align with that goal. And it's not always perfect, okay? We don't always hit those goals. We don't always plan it to perfection. Some weeks is like, oh, we need to get something out there. Let's just roll with it. But for the most part, whenever we're looking at our quarterly content calendar, we're looking at our goals first.
And then when you're making them, I believe is it KPIs, key performance indicators,
yeah.
Just like throwing out business terms.
Yes.
What does it look like over where you started? Like, was it like 2012?
Yeah.
2012 to where you're at now. I know you're the like software app queen. What if there was some software or something like that to help make your business life more efficient? I'm sure you know about it. What in that regard have you seen changed? Is there anything that you would want to bring up in terms of creating goals and things of that nature, or just staying on top of your schedule? This is like a 5 podcasts right there. What is there a specific app that you want to talk about right now? Because like just recently, for myself, I just went into Google Calendar and I started mapping out I want all of these videos to come out by this time. And just like the other day, I switched up a video because of the concept and it was because something was trending. But at the same time, I don't have to burn the midnight oil in my brain, or I guess comparing it to a computer, like I'm not running all of that memory to always think about, always reminding myself, oh yeah, I wanted to make a video about that, or on top of emailing that other person and I got to post that one thing. And then just by having it all solidified in a calendar has made it so much easier. But I know from just briefly watching some of your content, you can take that to a whole nother level and make it so much more systematized.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from there?
I love it. Okay. So let's talk about systems for managing your own personal workflow. And then let's go into cool tools that you could use to track
Cool
analytics.
tools.
Yeah, cool tools. So I think the first thing is finding a project management tool. I think that's a must-have. For you, it sounds like Google Calendar is awesome and that works for you. I love Google Calendar. I think it could be an awesome project management tool. And there's some really cool ways out there that you could be using it. Personally, I love using Trello. I'm obsessed with it. And so if you've ever kind of looked at tools like Monday.com, Podio, Basecamp, Asana, they're all generally designed to help you manage your day-to-day tasks, right? Like put things in a list, make sure that you have projects that connect to those, little tasks that add up to something bigger. So for us, we run our entire team on Trello, everything from our content calendar to literally my grocery shopping list. I run my life and my business on Trello. And I think it's really important to just have one project management tool. It could be anything that jives with you. You don't have to stick to Trello, but I think it's one of the best out there because it just gives you that space of like being able to put everything that's going on in your brain into, digital paper. And you don't have to worry about, okay, I had this one idea. I personally have a whole Trello board just full of content ideas that I think of on the fly and just literally type up on my phone because it has an app and I just put it there and I don't have to worry about it. So I think it's really important to just at least have a project management tool. If you have a team, this is like insanely important because you want to make sure everyone's on the same page. So for example, my video editor is in the Philippines and whenever I upload a video, we have an entire checklist of the things that need to happen for that one video to turn into a blog post, like 20 different social media posts, like everything you can think of, a newsletter, how we're going to repurpose it, how we're going to edit it. Every single person on my team has an entire checklist of things that need to happen to make that video, into a blog and release it into the world. So I think that it starts with your personal workflow, getting something that works for you. It could be things like, what am I going to do today? What am I going to move to next week? And then, what are things that are done? And having just the ability of like, just brainstorm once a week, have everything you're going to get done. Make sure you pick out your 3 priorities, the things that are non-negotiable that have to get done by the end of the week, prioritize those. That can be that simple. But there's so much we could talk about productivity. I think that is the basic. You have to have that. And then make sure that at the beginning of your day, you're planning top 3 things. What are the 3 things I have to get done today? Because there's so much that you could get done, so much that you probably need to do, but it's not always things that are conducive to the goals that you have. And I think that's the biggest I would say shift that a lot of us have to make. On any given day, I have 45 different things I need to get done. Those things are not all going to get done, but I know that I can get 3 things done that are going to bring my company a little bit further that day and closer to reaching goal. That's super important. And then looking at the same exact model from a week perspective. 3 things I need to get done this week, non-negotiables, no matter what happens, those things need to get done. And then same exact concept with your month, with your quarter, with your year. That's really important. And then merging that into content, we could be here all day, but I will say this, have a content calendar tool. I don't care what it is. If you use Trello, if you use CoSchedule as an amazing tool, if you use Google Calendar, another amazing tool, just have a sequence, a schedule, an agenda. Treat your company like a real brand. Like give it the respect it deserves and get off all of that stress off your shoulders because it's unnecessary to be thinking about, oh my gosh, what I'm going to put out next week. Like I have no way of knowing like
you're preaching
to what we're going to
used to be that way. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you're scrambling the night before, like, what am I going to
or not even the night before, the morning of.
Right, the morning of, and you're like no, that's unnecessary. So just have at least a content bank of ideas, put them on there, even if they move around, like you said. There's tons of times where we're moving around content all the time, but we know these are the 12 things we're going to put out this quarter. Like, that's it. It doesn't matter the order. We'll rearrange it. No big deal. And then in terms of just hitting your goals and figuring that out, I think Google Analytics is probably a tool everybody needs to have in their company. Even if you don't understand all of it, at least having an idea of like, how many people are hitting your website? Where are they coming from? Those 2 things can make a huge difference. Like you'll know, okay, Instagram is driving 0 traffic for us. YouTube is crushing it, but I'm using Instagram as a way of like staying on top of, everything that's going on in my business. It's a relationship platform. I don't necessarily look at it from a standpoint of driving traffic. As an example, I'm not saying this is the case, right? But just knowing those things can make a really big difference. And then looking at, okay, how many people converted to our email list this month? Are we actually doing anything to turn visitors into subscribers? What does that look like? So little key metrics like that can really help you get started are key. And then you can go really in depth and look at, conversion rates. How many people are hitting our sales pages if you have sales pages? What is, our lifetime value for our customers? Did it go up this month or did it go down? How many people did we get? For us, at least, it's in the membership. How many people trialed it? How many people, actually converted into customers? How many people upgraded their membership? Those are all monthly reports that my team pulls from a tool we love using. It's called Samcart. And that's kind of how we run all the process of getting a new customer and managing that relationship and seeing the numbers. So things that I'm really paying attention to these days are checkout exit rates, or abandonment rates for carts. It's really called cart abandonment. Looking at that aspect and just making small tweaks to our pages, our sales pages, and our checkout pages. We've been able to double conversions just by looking at how people are engaging, with our content, and how are they kind of going through all the way to almost buying or completing the purchase, and why they decided not to. So it's really interesting, all the little things you can track. But I think at the core level, I think looking at your traffic, looking at your conversion rates for your email list, and then knowing where your traffic is coming from, super important. And then if you are really into growing a specific social platform, awesome. Look at your followers, your unfollows, look at your engagement rate, look at your impressions, and engage, what is resonating with people content-wise. So important. It's so basic, but we don't do it. We just like push content all the time, and we don't look at like, do people want to learn more about this? I've been guilty of this all the time. I have to catch myself and be like, do I want to create this piece, or like, do people want to actually, hear this stuff? And I think there's a balance too when you're a creator. You should have a few pieces that you're just putting out for the love of the art, right? And there's other things that you really need to look at. Okay, are people resonating with this? So those are some key things I would look at. I hope I haven't talked for too long.
Oh, no. I mean, we're here for you. A couple of things I want to touch on with that. Just on the back end of what you were just saying, the creating content for content's sake. There's sometimes, especially with my YouTube channel, there's certain aspects of being a video editor that are there's like a nuanced problem that may happen, and I couldn't find anywhere where somebody explained that problem. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make a tutorial about this may not get that many views, but I know in and of itself somebody else is gonna have this problem. Lo and behold, those are my most viewed videos.
Wow.
Because I was like, oh, somebody else, I couldn't find anything about this. And then those, over time, it's like it gets released and it's 5 views. And then, well, there's still a view a day. And like, I mean, this with a lot of the different content. So I would also kind of piggyback off that, saying that if you have come across a problem in your creating searchable content, you're passionate about helping others in a certain degree. Something that's helped me, at least in the YouTube space, is creating videos on some really niche errors that might happen in Premiere Pro and things of that nature.
That is so cool. I love that tip, actually.
Yeah.
In terms of, so does that just come as a result usually of you kind of experiencing that issue, like you mentioned, and then you just come up with a tutorial? That's brilliant. I think that's a great strategy.
Yeah, there's another guest I had on the show, Cody Warner. He's another YouTuber, vlogger guy, really awesome dude. And he had this concept about his ways of teaching tutorials. And if you've experienced it yourself and you can tell that story, it's so much more gratifying, or you can relate to the person in that experience way more than if you're just trying to read about it and then repurpose some other person's or some other type of content,
I love that. You know why? Because I preach searchable content. I think it's necessary and it's very important that you're doing research, But there's always that balance, right? Like there's never like this formula of like, this is what you do first and this is what you do second. And then your YouTube channel explodes or your blog explodes. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? So for different niches and different creators, I think it's so important to at least experiment. Like give yourself that, 2-3 videos. I don't know if you're putting out a lot of videos, maybe it's a month, maybe it's a quarter. We don't put out that many videos. So for us, it's maybe 2 or 3 a month, a quarter, not a month. And experimenting, seeing, putting stuff out there and seeing if it works. I love that. I'm so glad you brought that up because it's very, very valuable to other creators to give them permission, just to play around with things.
Yeah. And there was, going back to what you were talking before, conversation about goals. I want to know specifically for your daily goals, just the 3 that you have. Can you give examples? Because for me specifically, I just started picking this up maybe a couple months ago, just writing down 3 daily goals.
Yeah.
And to be honest, some of them could just be write this email and make that post. And then obviously there's like, make sure I finish this video. Yeah. But I found that just putting down even if it was something as small as writing an email to a person, I know that, maybe they'll reply or may not reply, but that's moving the needle.
Yes.
So what's that look like at where you're at in your business?
I love that you asked this. So I talk a lot about the Full Focus Planner. It's one of my favorite. So I'm totally about digital tools, love Trello, love all the digital things. But I think the biggest game changer for my productivity really came about having a physical planner. And I know that doesn't make any sense because it's like, wait, you just told people to use Trello. But I think merging things and kind of finding what works for you is important. And this is what works for me. So the entire system that the Full Focus Planner has, it basically gives you a weekly review. And so you check out like, what were your biggest wins for that week? Did you accomplish the 3 things that you set out the previous week? And then what are you going to work on the next week, right? So every single week I'm setting up 3 things that I need to get done. And usually it's around a specific project. So for example, this week I'm refilming version 2.0 of our Zero to Branding course. And for me, one of the big important things I needed to get done this week was that course, right? So by Friday, I know that needs to get done. Another thing that was important happening this week was this interview. And I put that down on there. It's like, hey, I have that going on Friday. So once I know the things that I have to get done, I'll look at, 3 things, 3 important things for the week, and then everything else that goes on, right? So team meeting this week, I needed to finish a blog post. I needed to send out my newsletter for the business launch, which goes out every Tuesday. I needed to upload some new videos for my editor. All those things go in one list, one big weekly list. And then every single day I have space to move those things that I need to get done that week into Monday, into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. So you have it's like you have a whole vat full of these are goal things.
Yes, exactly. And of all those things, if none of them get done, that's fine because these 3 have to get done no matter what. So on Monday, I'm opening up my planner and I'm looking at what do I need to get done this week? Let me move 3 of those things into Monday. And then I know that on Monday I have more than 3 things to get done. Like I have to get back to this person. I have to, talk to a team member. I have to make sure that I fill out my Instacart because we're not going to have cereal in the morning. Like that kind of thing, right?
But that's true. That I just for the listeners, I wanted to point out that these goals could be something like that. It's
Totally.
like, oh, make sure that I get my walk in this morning.
Yes.
Or that kind of thing.
Totally. Like I literally will have read 10 pages of the book I'm reading this week or like work out. Those are all things in my to-dos that day. But the top 3 are like simple things. Like I know that I need to record lessons 1 through 3 of this course today or I will fall off track by Friday. Does that make sense?
True.
So those are the things that I'm looking at from a day-to-day perspective and a week-to-week perspective. And it's very like I'm not talking about big, like get 2,000 new subscribers by Friday. Like, no, I'm looking at my goals and like actionable things I need to get done.
Yeah, for sure. I completely can relate, and especially since doing it myself and putting out what I wanted to achieve content-wise on a calendar and physically seeing it on a technology and physically seeing it in a digital space gives me a much higher view of wow, I really have put the bar way past what I should be able to achieve in this time. And thinking about like certain contents of, like, I have a podcast every Wednesday and I know how long it takes me to edit those podcasts. And then I'm like, oh, but I want to get these videos in and I want to get this Instagram post in. And then like, as I see it on the calendar, I'm like, that's completely outrageous what I've been putting myself through to do this. And now I have a much better understanding of, all right, where can I focus my energy and what steps to take next,
Wow.
if that makes sense.
I love that you brought this up because it's so important and so true. So I went through this exact same process. When I was first starting my business, I literally had like a list that was never, ever shortened because the minute I crossed something off, something else went in. And it felt like I was never moving forward. Like I wasn't really making progress.
Could I just ask, because for me personally, it's like, these are tasks that I know I could get done. And I know if I could sit down, do like the deep work or whatever, I know I could get it done. Oh, like, this could just be an hour here, 2 hours there. These are like, so in my mind, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, cool. I can do all of this. But then when you see it in a bigger picture, it's like, no, you can't get all of, you don't have 30 hours in a day.
Exactly. I love that. And the biggest shift for me was I was working with a mentor about 2 years ago. And up to that point, I thought I had a great productivity system in place. And I still realized that they have a huge company and they give themselves 90 days to complete one project. And I was like, wait, are you kidding me? Do you realize that means I can only get 4 things done in a year? That's crazy. And they're like, no, you don't understand. Like when you get things done the right way, those 4 things are levers that you move in a year. 4 major things that are going to make the biggest impact. Instead of trying to get all the things done and not because I would try to get, little projects done and then I'd be like, okay, it's 90% done. Like I'm good, or I'll revisit this in 2 months because I'm totally burnt out on this one thing.
Famous last words.
Exactly.
I'll revisit that.
So, it was really shocking to me that the way they operated at such a high level, they were still only giving themselves like 4 major things to get done in a year. That changed my perspective. And I'm constantly fighting the urge of like, but I want to do more. Like, this is so fun. And so now when we look at our yearly goals, there's a lot of things we want to accomplish, but there's 4 major things that like we know are going to make the biggest difference. Like maybe it could be really perfecting our webinar funnels and like knowing that there's something there and we've had that funnel for maybe 2 years, but we haven't like really tweaked it and made it like really, really good. Is one of the things that could make the biggest impact for our brand, for example. Or it could be, really focusing on hiring your first team member that you can train, that you can really like pour into that person and invest because they're going to take so much time away, from you having to do all the little things in your company. So those are really important. For us, we keep a Trello board. It's called Big Fat Projects. And literally we put all of our projects for the month, and they're usually not like really extensive things. For example, right now we're working on our accessibility plan inside of the website and trying to make sure that we have all of our videos have captions because we have a lot of hearing impaired students who have been requesting this, and it's really important for us to be able to give them that content. So that's been a project like for this month, for example. We're looking at that. We have all the, everything that needs to happen for that to get done. Other projects will be something like, hey, we need to, upgrade our forum and, work on that dev side. For me personally, on a creative standpoint, it's like, hey, I need to batch 12 videos this month so that for the next, 3 months, I don't have to worry about our content, or I have to make sure that we have, a hiring protocol in place because exposition is opening up. So all the things that we need to get done that are bigger than Monday, I'm going to write this newsletter, right, that require multiple steps, go in that Big Fat Projects board. And from there, we know this is what's going to get done. And I will tell you, only about 80% of what we put on there actually gets finished. I always know there's going to be 20% of things that like things happen. Life happened and we just didn't get it done. And that's okay. We'll move that to the next month. But starting clean every single month, really important for us. And then not overestimating. This takes time and experience, not overestimating like what you think you can accomplish. It's always going to take 2 to 3 times longer than what you think. For me, I still struggle with this. I will still put things in my to-dos and think that I'm like superhero and like can get 20,000 things done that day, right? And then, you know, I'm just like, really? Like, you know better than this. Come on. You can't be disappointed at the end of the week if you knew this was going to happen. So it's a balancing act. It's just experience and practice.
So you mentioned hiring your first person, and I'll say personally, from my standpoint, when it comes to the thought of doing that, it's less the idea of offloading something that I don't want to, like, I want to have my stamp on this and that kind of thing. It's more the idea of, if I was some other person that had to do this grunt work, I wouldn't want to be doing this grunt work. Does that have a phrase behind it? Like, what is that? Because it's certain mundane tasks that I know that I want to get done with whatever videos or you just mentioned captions. So I know there's like websites like rev.com that do things like that, where that's like their whole facilitator. But if you're taking on somebody specifically to not only do something like that, but a whole bunch of other material for your business, how do you get past that?
Oof, that's such a good question. And I really struggled with this. My first hire, my gosh, I felt guilty the whole time. Like anything that I would delegate, I'd be like, oh, this is so beneath this person. Like, I feel so bad. And then it made me, like, over time, I started realizing that that person, that was their joy, was to be able to like take things off my plate. And I think just finding the right person is key. First of all, I got really lucky. Pearl is my right-hand girl and on my team, and she started as being just my virtual assistant. She would literally do anything that needed to be done in the business. And slowly she started like voicing that she wanted more. She's like, why don't I take over that so you can focus on only the things that you can do, right? Like, there's no way that she could create our YouTube videos, film them, or like do any of our content inside the business launch. There's specific things that only I can do, right? And I felt really, really, I don't know if it's because I'm a girl. Obviously, you feel the same way, so it can't be that. But I felt really kind of just conceited, just like, oh, because like you're better than everyone else on your team. And it really took them being like, what are you doing? Like, no, we want to be able to have jobs. So like, you need to go make the money so we can all grow as a company, right? And so I started realizing slowly, and Chris was really instrumental in that too. Just him sitting me down and being like, you can't do this all by yourself, or you will literally stay small forever. Like, you have to realize that in delegating the things that other people can take away from your plate, you can focus on making more money, which means you can pay them more, which means you can offer them benefits, which means they can go and have 3-week paid vacations every year and take their families on amazing trips. And those are all things that have happened over time because I was able to kind of get over that mentality of like, oh, that's grunt work, or that's beneath anyone. Let me just do it myself and hold it to tight in the chest because I'm trying to be a good leader. Really, what you're doing is hurting your company's growth, and the opportunity that other people might have, right, to do those things for you is something that I think we underestimate. Not everyone is an entrepreneur, and that's a really good thing, right? Like, yeah, you have to understand that in your team. A lot of people don't want the pressure of having to not have a steady paycheck and not know what could happen, right? The unknown. We're a very weird breed. And so I think that people take comfort in knowing like there's always going to be something cool for them to do. And it's a different perspective. Like, I've had these conversations with my team and like, are you bored out of your mind? Like, how are you not like, they're like, no, like, I love doing this stuff. I know that every morning I'm going to have, something that I'm doing. And like our editor, for example, it's like, bro, you have to be like so bored of like doing this over and over again. And there's so many videos that we request. He's like, no, it's like literally, he said, it's like having TED Talks every week because I'm learning while I'm editing these videos. So it's just a different perspective. And having open channels of communication, I think, is really important too with your team, and finding the right person who understands like the value that they actually bring isn't related to a specific task. It's really letting you do what you do best.
There's so many, want to make a 5-hour long podcast. Do you know who Ed Mylett is?
I don't.
So he's another like podcaster guy,
awesome.
Pretty big in the male entrepreneur space.
Oh, cool.
So randomly, and this is just to dovetail off the story that you're talking about with your editor. When I was audio editing in the studio in Atlanta for a couple years, towards the end there, we got a couple tapes from this guy named Ed Milet, and I was editing them, and it's a lot of like motivational, inspirational, actual actionable business tips. And I'm just like a editor reading or listening to this stuff, and I can relate to what your editor said in the way that just listening to him while I was editing the material, I personally sent him a letter saying like, dude, your stuff has really motivated me, and I'm really glad that I got to edit this stuff. I mean, I got to record Dr. J. He's a basketball player. I got to record his audiobook, and I got to record President Jimmy Carter's audiobook as well.
What?
And
Dude!
Both of those people have left a lasting impression on me, because when you're recording an audiobook, you obviously, you get the DVD extras where, say they read a chapter for Dr. J, one of his sons died before he passed away. So it was like, he reads this chapter, right? And it's in his book. So obviously he's going to be talking about this during his tour and all this other stuff. But he reads this chapter, then he comes back into the studio, and now you get to have like this one-on-one interaction. It's just one of those things. This is like really tangential, but in terms of working on it, that in that space, like inspired and motivated. And in that particular case, I went, and Dr. J is a basketball player, or like he basically invented the slam dunk, for those that don't know. I went out and I was like playing basketball afterwards, and I was like hitting all these threes and everything. Like so through osmosis, I got really good at basketball.
The magic of Dr. J.
This is super tangential. But yeah, that's a very good way of putting, if I guess like feeling guilt or whatever, because I know when a lot of people talk about this subject, they're like, well, especially for creatives, they're like, you don't want to give up your creative and all this stuff. But for me personally, it's more like, nah, man, I know what it's like to be an editor, and I do not want to have somebody just sit there and like, do you want to type out this transcription? Because I've done that for days and days and days on end. So yeah. Let's start to wrap this up. Before I ask you two questions at the end, can you tell me about what people can come to expect with the Business Lounge? Because I know for certain entrepreneurs or anybody that's coming into that space, there's different levels. You just don't like throw them into a specific part.
Yeah.
Now, I love how you've already discussed with your email list and everything else, like here's how, even if they're focused on one part, then you can really focus on that one part, and you can take them through that certain, what's a path?
Yes.
So you obviously know way more about the Business Lounge than I do. Can you talk about what it is?
Sure. So we created it just as a really, it's funny, but I never had any idea that I would be running a membership site ever. It was just something that our audience started requesting. They were like, we started with social media, and they're like, oh, but okay, I got the social media part. I want to know, what about email marketing? Like, how do I bring that together with like what I'm doing on Instagram or what I'm doing with YouTube? How do I actually like run sales funnels, and like what tools do you use, and all these different questions. So I realized that there really wasn't a program that allowed people to connect the dots, right? So they're learning individual courses about video editing, and they're learning about, accounting, or they're learning about, how to convert people or how to grow a following. And a lot of times they're getting contradicting advice, right? And it's really good advice, but it's not really what they need to be working on when they're getting started, or when they're, kind of in the hustle stage, or when they're in the breakthrough stage. So we decided we wanted to create a success path of sorts, where people could really
term, a success path. It's so cool.
Yeah, so that people could just have a basic breakdown of what they need to be working on based on where they're at in their journey. So someone who's launching a business is not supposed to be focused on what someone scaling a business is focused on, right? So for example, I was seeing a lot of our members who are like, literally didn't have a website, but we're trying to already outsource. And that's a big mistake. Like, you want to make sure you're profitable enough, right? And you have a solid, validated business idea before you go and spend all this money hiring someone to only have to let them go because you can't sustain that hire. So looking at all those things, we decided, hey, let's come out with a framework and help people identify at what stage of the success path they're in, right? Whether it's validation, whether they're in the launch stage, the hustle, breakthrough, and scale. There's so much that can happen in those stages. And then let's give them specific to-dos, things to focus on, things that are going to help them get to the next phase faster. And with that, we created an entire curriculum, right? These are the courses you're going to take in this phase. Please ignore everything else until you are in the next phase. Otherwise, you're just going to get overwhelmed with the amount of content in the Business Lounge. So in a gist, we teach entrepreneurs literally how to validate their business idea from scratch if they're getting started, and then grow it if they're already have been doing it for a while, and then scale it if they're kind of just celebrity status. And so we have people in there who are making way more money than we are, and they're just kind of using our tools and our strategies to really figure out their marketing and hyper focus on little things like, making their team stronger, outsourcing, looking at their funnels, running webinars, whatever it may be on the marketing side. And then we have people who are literally in there who are just like, I want to start a business, but I'm not sure what I want to do. So we take them through the validate stage and show them, hey, this is what you need to be looking at from a business standpoint. So we offer a lot of courses, but really, truly, what the Business Lounge is about is helping people figure out what to work on next, get a clear picture and a plan of how to scale a profitable business. So that's pretty much it.
A success path.
A success path.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the word lounge is in there, so I'm assuming it's a community.
It is a community, yeah. So we have a full forum. We do live Q&As every single month. Chris joins me for those, which is really cool. And I'm in there answering questions. It's really about helping entrepreneurs implement what they're learning for their specific business. So I got really tired of being kind of in courses where I have like 20,000 other students and I could never ask questions like the instructor questions. So I wanted to kind of change that. And so in our community, like our members who are like very active, like we know their kids' names, their pet names, like we're very, very involved in their progress and in their lives. And so yes, it is a community kind of merged into courses, and then also like literally a path to where you need to be depending on the stage that you're in your business.
Awesome. First question of the last two. Why do you do what you do?
Ooh, I love it. So I think that there's nothing more fulfilling in life than seeing other people kind of thrive because of something small that you did. So for me, what really gets me up in the morning and what keeps me going and what makes me so incredibly passionate about what I do is just being able to help one person, whether it's through our free videos on YouTube or it's, a member in the Business Lounge, is like helping them change something or improve something in their path to success that can add value to their lives. So that's why I do what I do.
Very short and concise, and you know what's up. I've kind of switched up my last question a little bit, and I want to ask this to you. In the last year, what has been the best investment that you've made?
Ooh, wow. That's a great question. I would have to say two things. So best investment by far has been working with a coach one-on-one and just going on a retreat of like full week immersion, like no distractions. Let's really figure out like how to get to the next level. Was a very big investment and an amazing investment. It really paid off a lot. And then also my health, just like taking a step back and looking at, like, I have this watch right now. Like, I wear this thing. It's a biometric watch.
You were a dietitian at one point, weren't you?
Yeah, that's what I went to school for. I didn't literally. I'm like 10 credit hours away from graduating. I kind of marketing, like, fell in love with marketing even more than diet and nutrition. But yeah, I'm really passionate about that. And so throughout the course of, kind of our journey, I just always ate well, kind of exercised, but didn't really give my body enough rest. It was like, go, 24/7, like, let's do this. And I think that when you're really passionate about what you do, it's very hard to set healthy boundaries, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like 2 a.m. and you're like, what? Like, it's crazy. Where did the day go? So now I'm being more conscious about taking care of myself. And we just actually got back last week from a trip to Atlanta where we're working with a holistic doctor and did like full battery of tests because we just want to make sure that like we are operating at like peak performance. And that means knowing my numbers and resting and getting on a plan with a doctor that like we can check in like every month and make sure that like everything is in order. So those are the two investments that I think are paying off the most this year.
So with the health thing, can you give a specific example of why that has paid off?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. So for example, like I would say my whole life, I haven't been able to sleep very well. Like it's just been an ongoing issue where I just feel totally exhausted in the morning, just no quality sleep. And it's partly my fault and partly things that we're still trying to figure out. But the last year I created a sleeping routine. I was like, you know what? I'm going to commit. Like 7:30, I can't work after 7:30 because I noticed, right? Yes, exactly.
Have you stuck to it?
I have.
There's not one night that you've...
No, of course.
I was going to say,
cheated,
man,
sure.
that's some discipline there.
For sure. I know there's been definitely more than one night where I haven't stuck to it. But on 80-20, right? 80% of the time I'm good.
I was going to say, there's got to be some fire that you had to put out for some...
Oh my gosh, all the time. Or like, my team is on the other side of the world and like the only time they can meet is like 8:30 at night. I'm like, okay, well, let's do it. But I know that those days where I'm on after 7:30, it takes me 2-3 hours to come down from like the hype of running my company. I'm like so into it and there's problems that come up and I'm like pissed at something or something didn't go right, or I'm really excited about a project and I just want to keep working on it. So giving myself that time has transformed my life. Like I'm not even joking, for real, being able to sleep. I wake up in the morning now and I'm still working on it. It's not perfect, but I can't believe how amazing I feel in comparison to what I used to feel like. I was like, literally could not get out of bed, felt like exhausted. It took me a whole hour to wake up and I can't do coffee because it makes me extremely jittery. So it was like a drag. Now I can wake up on my own, don't have to set up an alarm, literally feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm alive. Like I can enjoy myself. Like I can talk to my husband during that first hour of the day without any issues. And that's just allowed me to like be more creative. I'm starting to be even more in love with what I do. And like we're making a bunch of changes in our company. And I know it's because I've been able to put quality output instead of just being exhausted and then taking 12 hours to do things that could have easily gotten done in 6. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at, is like investing more in my health, setting healthy boundaries with myself because I'm the issue. And then...
Did you work up to it? Were you like 7:30 or like cold turkey? Like, all right, today I'm just going to, it's all 7:30, or were you like 8:30, then 7:30, like maybe 7:45, then we moved down to 7:30, that whole thing?
It was cold turkey, but I gave myself space to transition.
Okay.
Meaning, I had already, for example, like my team knew that we were going to do weekly meetings at a specific time. And like, I was like, okay, I'm going to make that exception. Like 8:30 to 9:30, I'm going to be in a team meeting every week. That's fine. And slowly, gradually over time, I've been like, okay, like I literally have an alarm that goes off at 5:30. That's like, wrap up the day. You have 2 hours, and those little things helped me. But it was gradual in the sense of I gave myself permission to cheat and not be super intense about like beating myself up if I missed it. But I did set a time and it was like 7:30 and then started seeing the results. And then it became more of a thing of like, oh, I get to be a normal human. Like I can cut off the time, right, that I'm working and I get to enjoy things. So I started doing things that I enjoyed at like that time. I was like, okay, this is going to be like my hobby time. Because if I don't fill my time with things that I enjoy, like I'm going to hang out with my husband, then I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking about business. I'm like, I can't do this to myself. Like I will go crazy. Like I love thinking of new ideas. So I just kind of started doing more things that I enjoy. Like I love gardening, and I know that sounds silly, but like at 7:30, I'll be out in my garden and like do that, or I'll read a book, or like I'll watch my favorite show. And I feel like, oh my gosh, like this is nice. Like I'm a normal person with a schedule and I get to turn it off. And it's been really, really healthy. And then the other thing is like no working on the weekends, which, disclaimer, if you're in the hustle phase of your brand, like that's probably something you're gonna have to do.
So I was gonna bring that up. Is like, so you're saying all this, but there are certain people that when you're starting out, I don't know if this is the best option.
No, like look, listen, this is year 7 of my company.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? Now I've worked my buns off to get to where I am. I get to, kind of slow down a little bit and use my time smarter. There were many times where I was, had a full-time job, clients on the side, and was a weekend warrior. Like 100%. It was like all work all the time. I don't necessarily think that's healthy, but I do think that be conscious of the stage that you're in and your success path, right? Like not everyone is going to be able to do that. And I think that even if you are, hustling on the weekends or you're working nights because that's the only time you have to work, start small. Like, what are some things that you can do to invest in your health? Maybe it's like, eating a couple more greens during the week, or like meal prepping on the weekend, or just carving out 2 hours in the week to do something you enjoy. Those are little things that I wish I would have implemented because I didn't, and I burned out hard. I would have been so much further along than I am right now if I would have taken care of my health in an appropriate way that resonated with the stage I was in, right? Like, if you have kids, like, I'm not a mom. Like, if I was a mom, it would be totally different story. Yeah. So you have to apply, kind of these principles into what your life looks like now and the stage of business that you're in, and kind of, look at it as a goal or a thing to strive for if that jives with you. Some people are like, I can't stop working at 7:30. Like, it makes no difference for me. I can literally, go to bed at 12 and like the minute my pillow hits, my head hits the pillow, I'm out. Mm-hmm. That's not me. Like, my mind will keep going. I'm super hyped. My watch will literally be beeping like, calm down, like rest, like your heart rate is out of control because I'm excited. So just know yourself and then apply whatever is going to work for you. Just make sure that you do it. Like, put something in your health bucket because it'll 100% pay you back 1,000 times over.
I know I'm just like totally taking all of your time away, but
no,
I think there's one question I want you to answer. And if people are already not listening to the podcast, don't matter. What would you say to female creators in terms of creating on the platform right now? And like, what's interesting to me is as when I grew up, like my mom was like the breadwinner of the family. Like she was like, cool. I really looked up to her. So I love seeing. And also, to give a good example, like I really love watching the women's national soccer team, and like I'm really into the NWSL. Shout out. If anybody knows anybody on the women's national soccer team, could you please send them my contact info? But for women creators on the platform right now, what would you say to them?
Any kind of creator, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say, girlfriend, this is your time to shine, because it has never been a better time to start a company or a brand or be a creator, a female creator that is, than now. I feel like literally the world is a different place than it used to be, even 10 years ago. Like I was just talking to Chris's mom about this when we were in Atlanta. Women are just taking a stance, and I feel like we're taking the business world by storm. We're starting businesses 5 times faster than males, and I think that the internet has a lot to do with it. The fact that we don't have to choose anymore. We can still be bosses and be moms and be whatever we want because we could do it from home. And even if you don't work at home, it's an amazing time to be a female entrepreneur. I would say empower yourself, really, really educate yourself. Make sure that you are focused on the right strategies. Don't get distracted and do not listen to the noise. There's a lot of voices out there that don't necessarily understand what it's like to be a female entrepreneur, right? So it's totally okay to kind of carve your own path. There's all these different, people that I feel like tend to put women in a box. And from a female perspective, especially when it comes to doing business in a mostly male-dominated space, don't let anybody put you in a box. Like, do not allow other guys to be like, you need to do this, or other girls to say, oh, you need to do that. Like, find your own path and trail, your own path, your own journey, because we have so much to offer as females to the world. Like, there are so many amazing gifts that I see in females specifically that I feel like men don't necessarily have, and that's a good thing. Like, there's so many things that men bring to the table that women don't have, and that's totally okay. We have to just own who we are. We don't need to be guys. We don't have to perform like them in the workspace. We just need to be who we are, females, and celebrate what it is to be a woman and just build a brand around it. I feel like a lot of women in the past, they had to exert this like super alpha energy in the workplace and like change who they were to fit into a male dominated environment. And that's not the case anymore. Like, women were allowed to be women, and I think that's an amazing and beautiful thing. It doesn't mean that like we're better than men or that men are better than us. We're just different. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I think women just need to just go out there and get it, and don't be afraid of what people are going to say. Don't choose, just follow your path and your dreams, and don't let anyone put you in a box.
It's interesting because coming from a male's perspective is I listen to Jenna Kutcher and she's always like, well, we have some male people that listen to like, man, you put out really awesome content like that thing. And also another specific example is I think one of the most recent posts that you just had was, hey, this is a girl post. If you are a male, you're not going to dig this. But I think that speaks volumes to what you just said, where it's like, hey, I'm going to do this. Just know that I still have the content for you, but this is for my ladies.
Yeah, this is for my girls. And that's another.
I want to do you sit here and do the Beyonce dance? Like, well,
I love it. Yeah, it's one of those things where people are always asking me are you building a female brand? It's like, no, I'm just building a brand, and I'm a girl. So girls are going to gravitate towards me, and that's awesome. I'm going to have pink and black and purple on my website. I'm going to female and really girly. And I do have to give my husband credit for this, because for a long time, I have more male followers on YouTube than I do females. And I'm very aware of that, but it doesn't change my aesthetics. It doesn't change the way that, I look and feel, because I follow so many dudes online that are so awesome, and I get so much out of, their content. And I don't look at whether or not their branding is flowers and feminine so that I can relate to it, right? I see the value. It doesn't bother me. It's cool. So a lot of times, we'll get people asking oh, is this for dudes? Are dudes allowed? Of course, everyone's allowed in our community. We have a lot of men who are in the business lounge, and that's awesome. Yes, it's mostly female dominated, because that's just the nature of things. But for me, I'm very, very aware that we have two different kinds of people, and I'm going to be serving something special for the ladies. I'm sorry, I can't do a dudes talk section because that would be very weird.
Yeah.
But in the business lounge, for example, someone was like, can you do a makeup tutorial? And I was like, this is not business related, but if they want that, that's awesome. We'll do a section, and then I'll have male guests that'll teach my guys how to dress up for videos and look fly. You know what I mean? So it's really awesome to be able to have a space where you can do both, and that's okay.
All right, so talked about so much. Where can people find you?
Okay, so our main website is KimberlyAnnJimenez.com. You can find all the details about us, our courses, all the good stuff, social media links, and then also on all social media handles at Kim Ann Jimenez.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This was one of my favorite conversations we've ever had. So this is really cool. Thanks.
Awesome. And if you would like to share this conversation that was so awesome with another person, you could write it out on a parcel and mail it to somebody with the link. I want somebody to do that, please. And then please take a picture of it and then tag me.
Post it on Instagram.
On Instagram. Please. All right. Until next episode, live a life of abundance. And I'll see you guys on the next podcast.